Hey guys, this is Dapper Dan here, and I'm going to talk to you about the Pokemon trading card game. Now, the Pokemon trading card game is based off the franchise of Pokemon. Pretty much, I'm sure most of you know what Pokemon is. If not, you've heard of it. It's a phenomenon that has swept the world and just taken it by storm. It is ever since it first came out with Pokemon Blue, Red, and Green. It has just enthralled and captured people's imaginations. I know as a kid, I love Pokemon, and I still love Pokemon, and it was just a big part of many people's childhoods. I know a lot of people my age, it's just something that they grew up with. It was just something that's consistent in their lives. They bought the games, they knew about the merchandise, and they even had some of the merchandise. They watched the show, all sorts of stuff. It was just a big part of our lives. Now, as I mentioned before, I grew up with Pokemon. I started out with Pokemon Blue, and in every generation, I was made sure to at least buy a game of Pokemon. I just always wanted to know how the new games were, what kind of Pokemon were in it, new gym leaders, just cool stuff like that. It's always captured my attention, and it's really found interesting. I didn't really play the TCG much at a young age. I had the cards and I would collect them, but I think a lot of people at the time didn't really play the game so much as collect the cards because it's cool seeing their favorite Pokemon in card form. So I haven't really played or really done anything with it until recently. Recently, I bought some new cards, checked out the game, really tried to venture in and learn about the strategy and the whole scenario and world of this Pokemon trading card game. And I have actually found it quite intriguing. Found it to be a very in-depth game, and it was very interesting. Before I really delve into that, let me talk to you about some of the history of Pokemon, at least the Pokemon trading card game. Now, Pokemon trading card game started out in 1996. It was first published then, and it was first published in Japan in 1996, and then came over here to America in 1998 by Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast was publishing the Pokemon trading card game. This is interesting because for those of you who are familiar with Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast is actually who prints them and publishes them as well. So the fact that they were also printing the Pokemon trading card game is interesting, especially because Magic the Gathering, for those of you who know, was pretty much the grandfather of all these trading card games. It is what kind of showed that this idea of having a collectible game, or a game that you can, it's like combining collectible cards with a game, is a viable idea. So the fact they were publishing the Pokemon trading card game as well is interesting. Now, in 2003, fortunately, Wizards of the Coast lost control of it, and it was brought back to Nintendo to publish it. So, Nintendo seems to be doing a fine job too, so it's not that big of a deal, but unfortunately. There are 54 sets in the game in America and 53 sets in Japan. The interesting thing about that is that the sets in America and Japan differ. They're not the same sets. It's not like Japan makes one set and then America gets the exact same set. A lot of times the actual content of the sets and composition of them change. It's just kind of interesting how that works. So it kind of shows how there's a different environment of these games, and especially competitively in like Japan and America. Now, you might be asking yourself, how can I play this game? What will it take for me to start playing this game? Now, I've already explained in my how to play video how to, the basics is how to start playing. But a few things you ought to know before you start playing, just kind of general stuff. First of all, this game is in fact 2 players. It's not really designed to be able to accommodate more than 2 players. It kind of falls apart. So you could try playing multiple, more than 2 players. I just really wouldn't suggest it. It's not the best idea. In terms of investing in this game and if how much that will cost you, compared to some games, it's actually pretty inexpensive. Especially if you're looking to play competitively. I know that a lot of real valuable and good cards, at least a good number of them, are actually promotional cards, like promo cards. Like I know there's a Darkrai EX, a Mewtwo EX, and a Rayquaza EX. All very powerful cards and very strong in like tournaments and stuff. That are actually printed in as the promos for tins, meaning that if you see the tin with the card in front of it, you're guaranteed to get the card. And those tins only cost like $15, so that that makes it. And you also get like 4 booster packs with it, so that's a pretty good deal. Getting a very competitive card and 4 booster packs to boot, it's a pretty good deal. So in terms of cost, yeah, this game is pretty good. It's pretty nice on your wallet. It doesn't hit you too hard. Now, this game also comes out with a decent amount of expansions each year. I think it comes out with one round every 3 months. I could be wrong on that. But pretty frequently you will see a new expansion for this game. And that's good because that means it'll constantly keep it live and thriving, and just there's always new things to learn about it. So once you kind of mastered the game, or at least feel like you've mastered the game with old cards, now there's new cards in it that throw a monkey wrench in it all. So it keeps it fresh and it keeps it interesting. Now this thing was kind of interesting. I found out that it was I wasn't really expecting, but there's actually a really thriving community in this game. Now, I kind of thought, since it was a Pokemon trading card game, that I don't know, I kind of feeling that it was like mostly kids doing the Pokemon trading card game. But it turns out that there's a lot of competitive play. There are like tournaments, sponsored tournaments. I know there's like Battle Roads happened recently, which is just a pretty casual tournament, but they have world championships. They have all sorts of stuff to promote a community and a strong base for this game. So there's actually a lot of room to learn and grow. If you're wanting to become a competitive player at something, this is might be a good choice for you, because there's a lot of chance to actually raise the stakes and go higher and higher as you play. Now, in terms of the gameplay, it's a pretty fast-paced game. You start out with a Pokemon down. You can start attacking pretty soon. You start getting energies down pretty fast. Start knocking out Pokemon. It's a pretty dynamic game like that. You don't have to spend any kind of resource to play trainer cards, unlike some games where you have to, like Magic, where you tap things for mana to play things. So on first and second turn, things can start, happening real fast. You can a lot of cards let you go through your deck real fast, so you can just quickly zoom through things. The game actually does feel really robust, feels kind of refined, but because of the nature of having one active Pokemon and a few bench Pokemon, it can kind of feel constricted. Because you have this restriction of only having one Pokemon out that can fight at any time, and then only 5 other Pokemon out. So, compared to like some games where you have multiple components fighting at any one time, sometimes it can kind of feel like one person's punching the other person punches back, such and such. It's in terms of that, it's very constricted. Like I explained before, it can be pretty cheap to come into. You can get a good number of cards and some decent cards for just like $30 or so. to get a real competitive deck, you have to invest a little bit more into it. But unfortunately, because of the nature of being a Pokemon game, and there only being a certain number of Pokemon, there are a lot more than there was initially. But all the same, there kind of is a lack of variety in cards. You will see very frequently two like Machamps or two Garchomps in the same set, and they do different things, but aesthetically they're still both Garchomps. And it's like, oh, I got a Garchomp, and you draw the other. Oh, I got another Garchomp. So if you're looking for like a huge variety of things, I really wouldn't say this is the best game for you, because you're going to be seeing Pokemon just reprinted constantly. One set might have a Celebi, and then the next set will have another Celebi. That's just a little different. Considering their source material, I think they do a pretty good job with it. But all the same, it's something to keep note of. The art is pretty solid for most cards, but because you're just displaying a Pokemon, a lot of times it's not super interesting. Sometimes they can get fancy by putting the Pokemon in kind of interesting locale, or doing something interesting, or kind of interesting art style that they use to depict the Pokemon. But I mean, you're not going to see something super like awe-inspiring, I don't think. At least I haven't. Maybe there is, but it's just it's when you look at the card, you're going to see what you expect. Oh, it's Pokemon. I got a Boufflant card. Oh, look, it's a Boufflant. I got a Meowth. Yep, that's a Meowth. So, but whatever. So it has some pretty good game mechanics. It's overall solid game. So the question is, should I play it? Well, if you want a huge amount of variety and you want to have like no structure, and you don't want to feel confined at all, this isn't the game for you. You don't want to play this game, and that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for a good, solid game with a strong, efficient engine and pretty fast-paced games, and even if you just love Pokemon, this would be a game worth looking at. So it's a solid game, good community. If you like Pokemon, it's worth looking at. It's definitely what I would say about this game. That's all I have to say today. Thanks for listening. This is Dapper Dan, signing out.